Alright guys, now it's time to talk about that one character that we all love playing against so much in Gundam Evolution, Barbatos. So Barbatos is a close range flanker, backline diver type character. It only has melee attacks, and so in order to bypass this range issue, it goes on flanks. It dashes onto the enemy with its mobility, it blows them up, and then it gets out of there. And so that's the general play loop of this character. It does have a melee sweeping primary fire attack, but its main source of damage comes from its two slam stun abilities, which it uses one after another to one-shot literally any character in the game. Fun, right? Not for the people you're playing against. It has 1000 hit points and great mobility, with 3 basic dashes, and on top of that, a large leap ability. And because of its high mobility, stuns, and high HP, it can basically target anything in the game it wants to. So really, really strong. If you enjoy playing flankers in other games, and especially characters capable of doing melee one-shots, then make sure to try Barbatos out. I essentially compare Barbatos to something like Doomfist, but it has Genji's ultimate. So, I think a lot of us know this answer already, but how good is Barbatos? Barbatos, well, honestly, it really depends on how it gets changed based on the nerfs that they've given it. They did immediately after the first network test say that they're nerfing it. They're nerfing the range on the slam abilities. So if they nerf those a lot, then it won't be nearly as good, but we don't know yet. So going off of the network test and going off honestly how it's probably going to be, Barbatos is honestly insanely good. It has amazing mobility that makes it a huge threat. It has super high burst damage where it jumps in with its mace slam and then hits it with a longsword, burning through shield and immediately destroying anything in the game. Yes, that's right. I said immediately destroying them, meaning you can't res them after they get killed by longsword, which I didn't even really know about until recently, and that explains why I would insta-die, which was really, really frustrating. So while the character is mint and has the capability to target backline enemies, it's powerful enough to destroy anything in the game, which is just absolutely insane. So any unit that doesn't have more mobility than Barbatos will just die to it. I played a lot of Sazabi in the network tests, and I know for a fact I was struggling against it. The issue was that I couldn't outplay them if they were decent. If I dashed too early, they would just dash a second time and kill me. If I dashed too late, I would still be hit by the longsword slam. Or sorry, the mace slam, which was really, really, really frustrating. So if you don't have more mobility than them, you'll just die to Barbatos, and it sucks. Additionally, the way its longsword cooldown works when you use it, it makes it dash really high up in the air to like hit the slam again. So it makes it take a lot less damage than it should while it's murdering its poor victim it's hunted down. But and also just because it has this plus 1000 HP, which is a lot for a flanker, and even more mobility, it can continue fighting even after it gets a kill. Like get a kill, hide for a second, charge up that mace, and start hunting down your next victim. It's crazy. And it gets even crazier with its ultimate. After a short warm-up time, it gets 3 700 damage slashes. You can insta-kill anything in the game if you use it properly, but on top of that, if you're using it really well, you can get multiple kills, especially if you combo it with the Metis G maneuver. I would not be surprised to be seeing people getting, 4, 5, 6 kills consistently at a high level, which, considering you can one-shot up to 1100 HP units with a Metis boost put onto it. If you're comparing it to something like Zaku, which is a mobile suit that would position itself trying to compete for the same spot on a team as a Barbatos, its ultimate is way better. And it's way better just because it's so reliable as a team wiping ultimate. Especially if you're playing alone or you're playing into a point capture situation, you want something that can just kill enemies really quick, really fast, and in a secure way. And Barbatos' ultimate is like the best in the game for that. Comparably, probably somewhere similar to Pale Rider, but still really, 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 really good. So, for skill requirement, I know all of us probably got angry at some Barbatos and called them no skill, but it does require some moderate mechanical skills. It's not aim intensive like Exia or Zaku. You just have to be able to track enemies with a mace slam until you hit them, but it's got some other things that are more important. Its micro positioning is important, meaning like individual positioning you're doing like all the time, like choosing to go a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, use the wall, that sort of thing. But it's not as important as something like Zaku or Exia because of the HP difference. And also the fact that it usually just wants to dip after it gets its kill, get health, and just go right back in. So essentially, the majority of its mechanical skill is going to come from how you space yourself and making sure that you're spacing yourself properly to dash and then hit your mace slam. Its ultimate's also kind of mechanically intensive, but the slashes have a wide hitbox, so it's not crazy, you know. As to game knowledge, because it's so overpowered, you don't really have to know that much to play it. Honestly, it should be a high game knowledge requirement character, but really it's just hold that mace slam down and hunt him down and kill whatever you see. And because it's so overpowered, it doesn't really get punished for micro mistakes it makes, which is why you don't have to know as much. Yeah, good timing on its G maneuver and where to slash can be something that's a little bit more difficult and important, but also because of the fact, like you said, like I've been saying, since you have a lot of hit points, you're not going to be as punished for as hard. So if you make a mistake, it's okay still, and you're still going to get a bunch of value, too much value. In general, though, it is very helpful to have good macro knowledge to know generally about the game. Things like how to engage, when to engage, what ideal targets are for you, and knowledge of how to coordinate with teammates and go in when they can help you and when you can help them, things like that. And really just knowing how far you can push your character. Even though the character is busted, the kind of players who will climb to rank 1 on the ladder, soloing will be the players who do it on something like a maximally pushed, overpowered character like Barbatos. Will it get buffed or nerfed soon? It already actually is receiving some nerfs. They, like I said, they're reducing the range of the slam abilities. So it really depends on like, is that substantial enough to make a big deal? But even if it isn't, it's going to get more nerfs. And I'll tell you guys why. So the main reason why it gets to get nerfed and will be nerfed is just because people hate one-shot capabilities. They always have, they always will. Even if they nerf Barbatos to the point where it's not like particularly strong, people will still just hate playing against it. They don't like getting killed. And the thing is, people at lower ranks don't really ever learn how to value how important it is to avoid one-shots and how to defend against it. So it's likely to be over-nerfed. It'll get a nerf, and then people will still complain about it, and eventually they'll just be like, okay, fine, we'll nerf it again. Because as much as this is kind of like a, you know, unrealistic expectation for this character to be nerfed like that, just because they don't know how to adapt, it, like, the game developers aren't going to, you know, value Barbatos being strong and the players who play Barbatos more than the vast majority of people who will hate it. So it's going to get nerfed, guys. It's probably going to have something like the Doomfist experience in Overwatch, comparatively bad and almost never meta, yet it keeps getting nerfed over and over and over again. The only way that they can fix this, and that will also fix my problem with the character, is a way to manage the two-shot combo by really taking it out of the game and giving it some other buffs in other areas, potentially in like HP, making it more tanky, something like that. And my issue with it is essentially just that it can control any other mobile suit's positioning in the game. And a character like Sazabi, which is a main tank character, meaning a tank that's supposed to push forward, secure areas, hold choke points, and make this space, safe space for your teammates and dangerous areas where the enemy can't be in for them. Sazabi can't do that when it's playing against Barbatos. And so you have a flanker that can somehow just stop a Sazabi from doing its job. And because it has more mobility, if it's anywhere near equally skilled to you, you have absolutely no chance. I guess you could hit it with your tomahawk, but that thing has like literally the smallest hitbox in the whole game. I literally fit it between a mobile suit's armpit once, so good luck. Moving on to how fun it is. It's really, really, really fun if you enjoy abusing power and just crushing anybody you look at. Something that's really, really nice about the character is that there aren't things to counter it. So not only is it like ridiculously OP, but there just aren't things to counter it. If you compare it to Overwatch, where Doomfist has something like Brigitte and Cassidy to counter it, with these AoE stuns that are easier to hit, then it makes sense why this game, Barbatos, has so little difficulties in that situation. The counters to it that, you know, the should be counters, right, would be like Sazabi with its tomahawk, Marasai with its hook, Turning Gundam with its grapple, RX-78 Gundam, but all of these are like aim-based abilities, And even something like GM with its bash that should be able to peel it off of a backline unit, it loses to the slam. So you aren't going to have a lot of difficulties with that. And it essentially turns you into the counter of the characters that are supposed to counter you, which are like these shield tanks, essentially. These stun shield characters, like GM. So yeah, that's really fun, I'm sure. Not for me, but for the Barbatos player, right? It does feel really, really good to land a combo in this character. I do have to say one of the most enjoyable feelings I had in this game was when I like slid around a corner, knowing there was an enemy there, and then hit my mace like perfect timing on him as they were moving, and it was just really, 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 really nice. So that's good, right? Perfectly spacing your dashes and hitting your hits, hitting your maces. Yeah, I guess it's a mace, right? The primary fire really does feel a bit weird, but it isn't really the focus of the character, so it's not like something you really need to worry about, but it felt like the range wasn't very long, and it's just kind of strange. Obviously, having high mobility and just leaping around the map all the time is really, really fun. And there's some cool things you can do, like jumping on top of buildings, which is really, really, really cool. And also, its ultimate is honestly like one of the highest peaks of enjoyment you can get in this game. Getting hit with that Metis ultimate, your whole team's relying on you. You jump in, you frag, you get 4 of them nice and easily. Like hitting 3 of them in line and then finishing the last one with 2 dashes is really, really, really nice. So yeah, it's lots of fun in its current state anyway. So with that said, is it a good choice? No. I'm sorry to tell you guys, it is not. I'm going to put it at a C tier if you're a high tier player, and then a low B tier if you aren't high tier. So while it is extremely powerful, the future I'm projecting for it is bleak, and that's the real issue. Like I said, I cannot imagine they value Barbatos being powerful more than they do the general sentiments of like everyone who played the game. And they kind of already showed this by nerfing it already. It deserved nerfs, but the way they, like how fast they did it, it really showed the way that they think about this. However, it is still very strong, and it does have a high skill ceiling, so it's viable at like most ranks, because at all ranks, just because at lower ranks people won't know how to fight against you, and at high ranks you can get really, really, really good with it. But it's just gonna get nerfed in the ground, so that's painful, and that's why it's getting like a C tier. And on top of that, once it gets nerfed down to the ground, the skills you will have learned on Barbatos aren't applicable to other characters that well. It's only going to be applicable to something like Zaku or Exia, but you won't have the aim that you needed to develop on those characters. So you're only learning like engagement timing and stuff like that. Whereas if you started playing Zaku instead, that isn't as likely to get nerfed. You're going to have the flanking capability understood. You're going to have engagement timing, target focus, but you also are going to have aim. So you can lean into Pale Rider, some other characters, and it's just better overall, which is why, spoiler alert, Zaku will get a little bit of a better rating. But if you're in lower tiers, like I said, it's going to get about a B, because people don't really know how to protect themselves at lower ranks. And whatever nerfs it receives and will receive are unlikely to affect lower skill players as much. Usually they tend to do things that are like abusable at high skill, and they don't really change the ones that are one-shot capability, which is what lower players don't know how to defend against. So that is what is likely going to happen with the character. Picking Barbatos as your main in Gundam Evolution, then check out this mobile suit guide I made for the character. In it, I talk about its abilities, its strengths and weaknesses, when you should play Barbatos, and also how you should play it. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and check that video out.